Chương trình được đặc biệt bảo trợ bởi ABC Supermarket, D&D Gel, bác sĩ Phạm Hoàng Trung. Kính thưa quý vị, ngày hôm nay trong chương trình Hành trình nửa thế kỷ, chúng tôi rất hân hạnh được trò chuyện với dân biểu liên bang Direction, người hiện đang đại diện cho địa hạt 45 của California, bao gồm nhiều thành phố ở tại Orange County như là Westminster, Garden Grove, Fountain Valley, và nơi có nhiều cộng đồng người Việt đông đảo. Ông Direction là con của một gia đình thuyền nhân Việt Nam lớn lên ở tại Nam California và đã phục vụ 8 năm trong quân đội Hoa Kỳ trước khi trở thành luật sư bảo vệ quyền lợi người tiêu dùng và chủ doanh nghiệp nhỏ. Tại Quốc hội thì ông hiện là thành viên của Ủy ban Quân vụ và Ủy ban Doanh nghiệp nhỏ, nơi mà ông đang tập trung vào các vấn đề như là an ninh quốc gia, phát triển kinh tế cũng như là hỗ trợ các doanh nghiệp nhỏ trong cộng đồng. Từ hành trình của một gia đình tị nạn cho đến trách nhiệm phục vụ tại Quốc hội Hoa Kỳ, câu chuyện của ông không chỉ là một minh chứng cho thành công cá nhân mà còn phản ánh sự phát triển và sức mạnh của cả một cộng đồng. Kính mời quý vị cùng theo dõi cuộc trò chuyện đặc biệt này. Good afternoon, Congressman TRAN. And first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to join our program today. So let's talk about your early life. You are the son of the refugee family who came to the United States seeking freedom. Could you first share some of the memories of your parents' sacrifices and how that journey shaped your values and your path into public service?
Thank you so much for having me on, first and foremost. You know, my realization of my parents' struggle was really more of what I saw and experienced when I was growing up, and what they went through, like so many folks in my community, as refugees, as boat people. I was only told those stories by my mom, my dad, my sisters. I think, you know, their journey here was not one that was easy, and it's not for anyone. As refugees, losing a whole family, because my father, you know, lost his first wife and 4 children. The boat capsized and they died, and then he met my mom. He had 3 daughters at the time. My 3 half sisters survived, and they came over here, but they spent a year at the refugee camps in Indonesia before getting to the U.S. And I was very lucky that the same year that they got here, that I was born in Southern California. So I grew up here, but we grew up immensely poor. You know, we relied on a lot of safety net programs like welfare, SNAP, WIC, food stamps. Those were things that we needed in order to be able to make it here in the U.S. And as time went by and they were able to save enough money, they opened a small corner market, a store in LA. And you know, that was my realization of how hard my parents worked in order to let their kids have a future.
Thank you for sharing that. At the age of 18, you decided to enlist and serve in Iraq. And what motivated that decision? And how did your military experience shape the way you serve in Congress today?
Yeah, so I want to make something clear. I never went to Iraq. I got activated because of the Iraq War. So my unit was placed on, very lucky to be placed on Homeland Security. So we were at Fort Stewart in Georgia for close to half a year on Homeland Security. So I didn't have to go overseas. But you know, for me, enlisting and being part of the military was a small tribute, a way to pay back this amazing country, the United States of America, for taking my parents in, for giving us the means to survive and for us to succeed. So it was an honor and something that I felt deeply that I wanted to do in order to be able to give back for this country.
Thank you. Before entering the Congress, you work as a lawyer representing workers, consumers, and the victims of the abuse. How has the experience influenced the way you approach legislation and protecting everyday Americans from the large corporation?
That's a great question. I think, you know, being someone who finished law school, they teach you how to be very analytical. And when I started my own practice and practiced law right here locally in Orange County, I took on cases that dealt with discrimination, harassment, and wrongful termination, always representing the employee who were being taken advantage of by these large corporations. Sometimes bad supervisors were the cause of the harassment. Sometimes it's just bad company policy. But it was very a sense of strong pride for me to be able to go to bat for the little guy and make sure that their voices were heard in the courtroom. And I really see that my job in Congress now is to serve all of my community and give them that voice at the federal level.
Mm-hmm. But what have been your top priorities in service your district and your constituents?
It was always going to be to make sure that I bring back resources and funding for my community. You know, that's top of mind for me when I'm flying to DC and I'm working out there. But you know, my priority remained to make sure that we take care of our troops. You know, as a veteran myself, I think there's a meaningful way that you can ensure that the folks that served our country with dignity and exercising their duty, that we give them all the resources they need when they're back here. And additionally, you know, I sit on the Small Business Committee, and I think a lot of immigrants, they tend to be very entrepreneurial, and they start their own business. And you know, my wife and I have our own small business in Anaheim, and I think it's important that you know these businesses have the means to be able to seek funding to either start a business or expand their business. That there is a way for them to understand the contracts when they're entering into a small business loan, for example. And that's why I was very proud to pass legislation that is called plain language in contracting for small business. So that way, you know, no legalese and just talking regular English so people can understand. And additionally, I sit on the House Armed Services Committee.
I would like to ask you this question, you know, off topic today, okay, about the conflicts between U.S., Israel, and Iran. How do you think the U.S. should balance military and diplomatic actions to, you know, both protection national interest and avoid a wider war?
Yeah, I think you said the key word, diplomacy. I think when we are a nation of such power, we have to make sure that we exhaust all diplomatic avenues before taking any type of military actions. You know, I am very concerned that when we enter into a war by choice, as opposed to by necessity, it will eventually hurt not just our economy, but there's American lives at stake. As of earlier today, I think I was reported that 11 Americans have been killed in action from this unnecessary war in Iran. Now, I recognize that Iran is a very bad government, a very bad regime. The Ayatollah that was killed is a very bad man. But that doesn't mean that we go into this conflict that we have now without seeking diplomatic resolution. I think that should be first and foremost.
Chương trình được bảo trợ bởi ABC Supermarket, ngôi chợ lý tưởng của mọi gia đình Việt Nam.
D&D Gel, a world of blooming color.
Bác sĩ Phạm Hoàng Trung, dùng dược thảo để có một sức khỏe toàn hảo.
ABC, ngôi chợ lý tưởng của người Việt Nam. Nổi tiếng các loại hải sản thơm ngon, tôm hùm cá cua Canada. ABC, ngôi chợ lý tưởng của người Việt Nam. Thịt cá rau cải đủ loại trái cây, amazingly fresh. Wow, tươi quá. Quầy rượu đấu hiệu whisky cognac nè và đủ các loại bia. ABC, ngôi chợ lý tưởng của người Việt Nam. Ngay trung tâm Lý Đô Sài Gòn. ABC Supermarket. Looking at me.
Đừng lo tuổi già sức yếu vì quý vị đã có thuốc chạy bộ marathon của bác sĩ Phạm Hoàng Trung. Thuốc bổ Sâm Nhung Marathon, chai số 10 tổng hợp gần 30 loại dược thảo tinh quý thượng hạng cùng với những vitamin và khoáng chất cần thiết để bồi bổ cho cơ thể. Trong suốt thời gian trải dài từ mấy chục năm qua với bao thế hệ đã dùng qua marathon đều xác định và đánh giá thuốc marathon là món quà tuyệt vời cho sức khỏe. Mọi thắc mắc xin liên lạc bác sĩ Phạm Hoàng Trung 714 775 2026 775 2026. Thuốc marathon luôn mãi là người bạn đồng hành chạy bộ cùng quý vị.
Dùng dược thảo để có một sức khỏe.
Could you share some key bills of policy that you have supported that directly to the benefit of California's 45th district? And are there any particular bills that you are currently working on that you believe that will make a meaningful impact on your community?
Yeah, G. I share that, I'll start with something that I'm very proud of, which is the fact that in the last about 14, 15 months of being in office, I've been able to bring back $14 million in funding back to our district, CA 45. What does that mean? That means people's hard-earned tax dollars that they paid out is coming back to them where they can see it on the streets. They're going to be served by it. Specifically for Little Saigon, we brought back $1 million for the Westminster Recreation and Senior Center, which is a very important center within our community.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I brought back $2 million for the Fountain Valley Fire Department. They were in much need of a new fire station, and this is going to go towards that. And then Garden Grove Fire Authority, the OC Fire Authority said that their Garden Grove station also needed $1 million. So I brought that back for them too. So it's a continuation of bringing back these funds. That's just 4 of the 14 million that I brought back throughout my entire district.
Okay, I know that our community very grateful your contributions and your dedication, and among of those efforts, which do you believe that has made the most meaningful impact on the Vietnamese community and the diverse communities in your district?
I think we have to look at it from a more broad perspective. When you ask me what's my number one impact that I bring back to the district, I can share that I think it is hope. I think it's motivational, and it's very hopeful when we see our community that's represented by someone who actually is from the community, that cares about the community, that can tell the story of our community at the federal level. So sometimes it's not as tangible as dollar money, but it's also the smiles and the hope that I see when I'm back in the district and all the chú and back, and they tell me how proud they are that they finally have a voice in DC. But my service extends to, outside of just Little Saigon. I also have to serve the Korean community and the Hispanic community just the same, because everyone that's part of this district matters, and they deserve a representative that's going to work for them.
Behind every public servant, there is often a strong family support system. Your wife, Michelle, a pharmacist, has been a part of that journey. Could you share the important role she has played in your life, and especially during the pandemic last month, when your family pharmacy, helped serve the community?
Yeah, I'm so grateful that I have a very strong and amazing spouse. My wife not only runs a small community pharmacy in Anaheim, but she helps take care of our 3 amazing kids. That's probably her most important job that she enjoys the most as well. And when I'm in DC, she's holding down the fort, if you will, by making sure that she runs her business, and then also take care of our 3 amazing kids. She grew up at the age of 3 in Garden Grove in this area. So she considers herself, long-standing community member, of Little Saigon. So she's very proud of that, and I'm very lucky and fortunate to have her counsel when I need it.
As a father of 3 children, you just mentioned you have 3 children in public school. And what values do you hope to pass on to your children? And what message would you like to send to the younger Vietnamese American generation growing up in the United States today?
You know, I think when it comes to what I want to pass on to not just my 3 children, but any of the young folks, the young adults out there, is what my parents instilled in me when I was very young, and that the Army reinforced. You know, everything that I do goes back to selfless service. And it's one of the tenets of the Army, and it's something that my parents always taught me. It's very important that you give back. You know, if you have the means, you give back. If you have the time, you volunteer. If you have the capacity to run for office, then you run for office to take care of your community, right? So for me, I think making sure that our youth and my kids understand that it's important to make sure that you make money and be successful. Yes, that's great, but also you have to learn how to give back to community. And additionally, I think, you know, specifically for our community, the Vietnamese diaspora, I want to make sure my kids understand the importance of our history. How did we get here? Why are we here in the U.S.? What happened to us in Vietnam? Their grandfather fought against the Viet Congs and the communists and was jailed. They cannot forget that. They need to know that. And that story is very similar to so many you know, kids and children out there that's part of our community. So it cannot be lost, and we have to continue to educate them and tell those stories. Tell the stories of how we came in this country and how our parents work hard so that we can have a future and be Americans, Vietnamese Americans.
This year marks 50 years since 1975. The Vietnamese American has grown stronger and gained a greater voice in American society. As a Vietnamese American member of Congress, what message would you like to share with the community?
You know, I am deeply proud of the accomplishments of our community here in the United States, not just Little Saigon, but all over the United States and the world outside of Vietnam. You know, we've become engineers, doctors, lawyers, successful business owners, CEOs, board directors, and that's just the beginning for us in our community. So I thank my elders for the opportunity to serve and everything that they've done in order to make sure that their kids and their kids' kids have the opportunity to realize the American dream in this country. So it's something that we're going to have to continue to support each other to do, but it all started from their struggles and their fight, and it's never going to be forgotten.
What message would you like to share to the young Vietnamese American who dream to make a difference in this country?
You know, I think anything is possible if you have the love and support behind you and you have that will. So I say, you know, never give up on your dreams. You always have to, you know, fight for it. Things don't come easy, but that doesn't mean you give up. So you have to remember that with a good support system, you can do anything.
Okay. Before we close, I would like to ask you this question. Outside of the work in Congress, what do you enjoy doing with your family during the free time?
We go out to eat a lot, I think, which is also a problem because I'm gaining too much weight. But going out to eat, the kids enjoy outdoors, hiking. So this past weekend we went hiking. So it's a lot of outdoor activity, but also enjoying good Vietnamese food.
All right, thank you again. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your service to the community and to the Vietnamese American community. Thank you. And hopefully we'll see you, on the next show in my current affair.
Thank you so much, Jay, and I thank everyone for this opportunity to be in this role.
Chương trình được bảo trợ bởi ABC Supermarket, ngôi chợ lý tưởng của mọi gia đình Việt Nam.
D&D Gel, a world of blooming color.
Bác sĩ Phạm Hoàng Trung, dùng dược thảo để có một sức khỏe toàn hảo.
ABC, ngôi chợ lý tưởng của người Việt Nam. Nổi tiếng các loại hải sản thơm ngon, tôm hùm cá cu Canada. ABC, ngôi chợ lý tưởng của người Việt Nam. Thịt cá rau cải đủ loại trái cây. Amazingly fresh. ABC, Wow, tươi quá. Quầy rượu đủ hiệu whisky, cognac nè và đủ các loại bia. ABC, ngôi chợ lý tưởng của người Việt Nam. Ngay trung tâm Lý Đô Sài Gòn. ABC Supermarket.